There was something magical about growing up in the 1980s. The music was electric, the fashion was wild, and every kid believed their bike could take them anywhere. It was a time before smartphones and social media, when you had to actually knock on your friend's door to see if they could hang out. Saturday mornings were sacred, mixtapes were treasure, and malls were our playgrounds. The world felt exciting, colorful, and full of possibilities. Today, we're rewinding the VHS tape of history and taking a look at 10 cultural moments that defined growing up in the 80s. The fads, the feelings, and the unforgettable memories that made the decade what it was. One Saturday morning cartoons. For every kid in the 80s, Saturday mornings were a ritual. You'd wake up early, sometimes before the sun, and pour yourself a giant bowl of sugary cereal. Then you'd plant yourself in front of the TV, ready for hours of cartoons that felt made just for you. Shows like He-Man, the Smurfs, G.I. Joe, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles filled the airwaves. It wasn't just about the stories. It was about the feeling of having a world that belonged to kids. Parents were still asleep, the house was quiet, and the flicker of the TV light made it all feel special. Networks poured millions into animated shows because they knew something powerful. Kids were loyal. And those toy commercials in between, they worked like magic. But by the 1990s, new regulations on advertising to children and the rise of cable TV changed everything. Saturday morning cartoons slowly disappeared, leaving behind a quiet nostalgia for simpler mornings. To the mall, America's social playground. In the 1980s, the mall wasn't just a place to shop. It was the heartbeat of suburban life. Teens met there after school, couples held hands by the food court, and everyone had a favorite store. From neon signs to the smell of fresh pretzels, the mall was a sensory experience. Arcades hummed with the sound of coins clinking, and music from The Cure or Madonna echoed through wide halls. Movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Clueless later captured this spirit. But the real thing was even better. For many, it was the first taste of independence. No parents, no supervision, just friends and freedom. The mall culture built community, fashion trends, and even first crushes. But with the rise of online shopping and changing retail landscapes, that golden age faded. Today, many malls sit quiet, their fountains dry, their echoes gone. But for those who remember, the mall will always be where life felt endlessly alive. 3. The Walkman Revolution. Before playlists and streaming, there was the Sony Walkman. Introduced in 1979, it changed the way people experienced music forever. For the first time, you could take your favorite songs anywhere, on a cassette, in your pocket. Walking to school, riding the bus, or just zoning out in your room, it was pure freedom. You could slip on those foam headphones and shut out the world. The gentle click of the play button, the hiss of tape. Those were the sounds of youth. The Walkman turned personal music into a private escape, an emotional soundtrack to everyday life. It became a status symbol too. Owning one meant you were part of something new. But as CDs and digital music arrived, the cassette faded into nostalgia. Still, that little orange play button became a symbol of independence, and the sound of the 80s lived on. 4. The arcade boom. For kids of the 80s, the arcade was the closest thing to magic. Neon lights, thumping synth beats, and the constant chatter of game over. You'd walk in with a handful of quarters, and for a few hours, you were a hero. Games like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and Space Invaders ruled the world. Friends crowded around machines, cheering each other on. It wasn't just about winning. It was about belonging. The arcade was a gathering place, a world of flashing screens and endless competition. Even adults couldn't resist the charm. But as home gaming systems like the NES took over, arcades began to vanish. By the late 90s, most had flickered out for good. Yet for those who grew up there, the sound of a coin dropping into a slot still brings back the magic of youth. 5. MTV and the music video era. When MTV launched in 1981, no one knew it would reshape culture. Video Killed the Radio Star wasn't just the first song they played, it was a prophecy. Suddenly, music wasn't only about sound, it was about image, style, and story. Artists like Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Prince became global icons, not just for their music but for their visuals. Kids would rush home to catch the latest videos, memorize the moves, and argue over who was cooler. MTV made pop culture feel alive. It was colorful, rebellious, and loud. It gave rise to trends, slang, and even entire fashion movements. But as reality shows took over the channel in the 2000s, the magic faded. Still, MTV in the 80s was a revolution, a time when music wasn't just heard, it was seen. 6. The blockbuster nights. There was nothing quite like renting a movie in the 80s. Friday nights meant heading to the local video store, wandering through aisles of VHS tapes. The smell of popcorn, the glow of fluorescent lights. It was an experience. Families debated over comedies or action flicks, and you'd feel lucky if the movie you wanted wasn't already rented out. You'd carry it home like treasure, rewind it after watching, and drop it off the next day. It wasn't just about the film, it was about the ritual, the anticipation. Stores like Blockbuster became part of every neighborhood's rhythm, but with streaming and digital downloads, the ritual disappeared almost overnight. Today, only one Blockbuster remains in Oregon, a lonely monument to movie nights past. For many, it's a reminder of when entertainment had weight, and watching a movie felt truly special. 7. Roller rinks and neon nights. The roller rink was where fun and freedom met. Under a glittering disco ball, kids skated in circles to the sound of Journey, the Bee Gees, or Whitney Houston. It was a place to laugh, show off, and maybe hold hands during the slow song. The smell of nachos, the buzz of arcade games, and the glow of neon. It was pure magic. Birthdays, first dates, and school parties all found their rhythm here. Roller rinks were more than recreation. They were community hubs. They brought together kids from every neighborhood bonded by the music. But as malls grew and tastes changed, many rinks closed their doors. Still, when Don't Stop Believin' plays, you can almost hear the wheels gliding again. 8. The hair and fashion explosion. The 80s were bold, bright, and unapologetic. Hair was big, colors were louder, and confidence was everything. From shoulder pads to leg warmers, everyone seemed to be expressing themselves loudly and proudly. Bands like Bon Jovi and Poison turned wild hairstyles into icons. Even teens copied the looks with cans of Aquanet and denim jackets covered in pins. Fashion was about fun, not rules. It was a decade of daring, where neon met lace and everyone wanted to stand out. But like all great trends, it eventually gave way to the grunge of the 90s. Yet those photos of teased hair, neon bracelets, and acid-wash jeans still capture the spirit of unfiltered joy. 9. The personal computer revolution. In the early 80s, the personal computer was a curiosity. By the end of the decade, it was a household fixture. Machines like the Apple II, Commodore 64, and IBM PC changed everything. Schools began teaching kids how to type and code, setting the stage for a digital future. Parents didn't fully understand it, but kids caught on fast. Games like Oregon Trail and Tetris became part of growing up. The glowing green text on black screens felt futuristic and mysterious. Owning a computer made you part of something new, something world-changing. The revolution had started, quietly, in family living rooms. And though today's devices are sleek and fast, the wonder of those early beeps and clicks still feels timeless. 10. Family sitcom nights before streaming. Before endless choices, families gathered around one TV. Shows like The Cosby Show, Family Ties, and Full House brought laughter and warmth into living rooms. You knew exactly what time to tune in, and everyone watched together. Dinner was done, homework was over, and the world outside could wait. These shows weren't just entertainment. They reflected who we were. They taught lessons about kindness, family, and growing up. The laugh track, the hugs, the simple endings, it all felt comforting. When cable and on-demand TV arrived, that shared experience slowly faded. But for those who remember, those evenings were more than television. They were family time, wrapped in light and laughter. The 1980s weren't perfect, but they were unforgettable. It was a time of imagination, optimism, and community. Every cassette, Every neon sign, every Saturday cartoon, it all told us that the future was bright. And even though the world has changed, the memories still shine like a warm summer evening. If this trip down memory lane brought a smile to your face, make sure to hit like, comment, and subscribe for more stories from the past. Because here on American Rewind, we believe every memory deserves one more play.